I turned my pain into my purpose. Your past is just a record of where your subconscious has been.
Control the
controllables and surrender the rest. I think the minute you start to realize like what you can control and you start focusing on those things and you actually start moving the lever in certain areas, all of the things around will start to shift. And also you'll just start to give less of a fuck.
This is one of the best questions you can possibly ask yourself.
I believe the first step to making an identity shift is to get so sick of your own shit that you've just decided that I am changing things. I am done. I am over it. If it's triggering you, maybe it's just activating you into what's possible. I would say, if you're in a winter, if you're in that season where everything feels hard and difficult, I would honestly just get a piece of paper, draw a big circle, and in that circle... And action. Let's go!
Perfect. It's the best day of my life. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time.
We just made it to Hollywood.
Yeah, right? Rochelle, it's so nice being here with you. Thank you so much for making this happen. I know you're about to board on a flight and fly to Europe, so it means a lot that we get to co-create together.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
I also feel like today it seems like a book club. We're both sitting here with our books.
We're here with our magnetic copies. Here we go.
I had a very good time reading this book. Also, thank you so much for you said a couple of words about me. Dear Axel, your energy feels like an espresso shot of positivity. You're truly that's one of the nicest compliments I ever received. So thank you.
Now, after I've seen how much coffee you like, I feel like I got straight to your heartstrings.
Yeah. I also heard this before. I was like a double shot of espresso. I'm really excited to dive deep into magnetic. And one thing that I start my podcasts usually with is the following question. If I would have been a fly in your head when you grew up in Sydney, what would I experience as this fly in your head? Because we spoke before this episode. We have a lot of things in common. And I can already see how you turned adversity into gifts and how adversity in your past made you this phenomenal human being that you are. Give us a little bit of context about that fly.
I think as a fly, you would have seen a lot of contrast. So you would have seen a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So I had a beautiful childhood, but I also had like a very painful childhood. I think, every childhood when we're growing up, we have ups and downs, but I went through a lot of trauma, which sort of led me to where I am now. I turned my pain into my purpose. So there was a lot of darkness, but in that darkness, there was, of course, pockets of light.
What would you say? What was there a turning point for you? You wrote magnetic. Was there a turning point for you, like an aha moment, a decision you made that shifted things for you, like a clear moment of life changed?
Yeah, I talk about this in the book. I used to be in the entertainment industry. So I used to be doing DJing. I was a DJ, I was a presenter, I was a model. I was doing very many different things in that world. And I had this one moment where I was with my DJ partner and I was actually DJing for Oprah. And that's
when I read that you were DJing for Oprah. You know that sometimes you see something and you're like, it's clickbait, and I'm like reading the whole story. This really happened?
It did really happen, and it was like a vision board moment that I manifested. It was a very sometimes I think the universe works in very mysterious ways. And essentially, when I was in my DJ career, I had decided that I really wanted to move into the area of wellness. I wanted to move into wellness and personal development. So I made this vision board that had all of these very, very stereotypical wellness images. We're talking back into, 2014 or so. So I had like green smoothies and yoga.
Pilates.
Pilates.
Ice matcha.
So I had this very kind of somewhat superficial vision board, but it represented the era of wellness that I wanted to go into. And like I said, I was a DJ, but in the middle of this vision board, I put this big picture of Oprah. And the reason I put Oprah on the vision board was I was obsessed with Super Soul Sundays. Have you ever seen her Super Soul Sunday episodes where she just gets the best of the best people? And I thought, you know what, Oprah is this one person in the world that has bridged these two worlds of entertainment and spirituality. She's like this undercover secret spiritual warrior. And I was just in awe of her. I was like, I love how she's able to hold the polarity of those two worlds and blend them together with just such grace and entertainment and lightness and fun. So I put her in the middle of this vision board. And also on this vision board, I put this vitamin company in Australia, because back in the day, they were kind of like the only company that I saw that were using people that were kind of in wellness to do like entertainment kind of stuff. They had like wellness influencers. And then randomly, out of the blue, a few months after making this vision board and literally staring at it every single night when I was like DJing in my bedroom, I got this email for my DJ duo, and the email was a question if we wanted to go and be DJs for Oprah's Australia tour. And not only that, it was Oprah's Australia tour, and she was being toured by the vitamin company.
No.
And this was for me, like when I really believed in like the law of attraction. I was like, oh, I am so freaking powerful. Look at me. I was like, oh my
I'm
gosh.
magnetic.
Yeah, I'm magnetic. I'm a wizard. Like move over world. Like here I am quantum shifting my reality. But I got this email, and I remember I sent this email back basically blowing all of our rates, basically saying I'll do it for free. Just what do they want to pay?
Oh, yeah.
Back when I understood my worth, before I understood my worth. And then, I ended up DJing for Oprah at this very small VIP event before she did this big talk in Melbourne. But the turning point was I was listening to Oprah speak, and I'm behind the DJ decks, and she said this thing, which is, you are responsible for the energy that you bring into this room. And I just remember hearing that and having this complete, absolute moment where I was like, yeah, I am responsible. I put you on my vision board. Here I am DJing for you. Like I'm magnetic. I'm powerful. Oh my gosh. Like look at me. I'm electric. And then on the flight home from that, after having my big ego, like, wow, look at me. Look how powerful I am. I'm responsible for everything. I realized that responsibility also means you have to take responsibility for the not so amazing moments in your life. Maybe the loops and the patterns that are happening again and again, the reoccurring things that are sort of just keep finding you even though you're not looking for them, but they're there in your subconscious mind. And it was in that moment I really started to take responsibility for my life, not only for the beautiful things that I was manifesting in my life, but also for the pain, the suffering, the patterns, the things that maybe weren't serving me, and the things that I wanted to pretend weren't my fault, but really I had something to do with.
Do you have one example?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that is really powerful, and I completely agree. I love the Oprah.
You are responsible for the energy that you bring into this room. Like I had that as a soundbite in my head all the time.
Yeah, because I think often when you talk about, law of attraction, law of vibration, it's about your book said goodbye. It's about, you think about, I'm responsible for how the positivity I bring into this room.
Yes, of course.
But then we're also responsible for, we walk into the room with the same, like, I'm frustrated energy. So what was maybe an example for you?
Oh, love to talk about that. Definitely my relationship with my partner. Back then, I think we were kind of in a relationship that wasn't as conscious, well, definitely nowhere near as conscious as it is now. And I was someone that was always wanting to be saved. So I was definitely in this pattern of like, I'm a victim. I need you to come save me. I wasn't sort of taking responsibility for any of the things going on in my life. I was blaming, at the time I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from things in my childhood. And I was blaming my PTSD for everything. I was like, well, this is because I have PTSD. This is because this happened to me. And although these are very real things, I did have, and I do have PTSD, and these things did happen to me. And there's a whole lot of, things there that affect me on an ongoing level. At the same time, like I do have to take responsibility for some of the patterns that keep reoccurring. I do have to take responsibility for my emotions, for my nervous system, for how I react, for how I decide to show up every single day. And I can't just blame this thing for the rest of my life and call it like my life is going to be this way because of this thing. So for me, that was a really like big moment, just taking more responsibility for myself and my relationship, for my relationships with other people, for how I reacted, for how I showed up every single day, for how I was waking up, the time I was going to bed, the food that I was eating, how much I was moving or not moving. I think in life, you have a circle of control, right? You can't can't always control the world, but you can control how you react to it. And I think one thing that I always say in life is you have to learn how to control the controllables and surrender the rest. And you have to become very aware of what you have control over and start to be very granular about that. Like, what are the things that are actually within my control? Because a lot of the things within your control can have a profound impact on your life if you start taking responsibility for them. If you start like taking your power back and not blaming the world and everything around you for your problems and start taking that responsibility back. And look, that's not always easy. It's
100%,
not always fun. It's a lot easier to just like blame everything else outside of yourself. And look, we all, have circumstances in our life that we maybe aren't responsible for, but it's not, I think we can't let our life be a result of our circumstances. I do think there is a point where we have to decide to rise up and to control what we can.
You said something in the middle. I would love to hear a repetition of that. You said control the
controllables and surrender the rest.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Because I think I often say people or tell people there's a lot of beauty in reverse engineering. Like if we can ask ourselves the question, and I think it's a great question: what makes you feel good? What do what makes you vibrate higher? But sometimes it's also nice to hear about things that actually do the opposite. And I say this over and over again: if you really want to feel miserable, focus on things you can't control.
Oh yeah.
Like if your task would be, let's say you wake up and you want to feel as bad as possible, focus on the things you can't control, because then you're going to feel like a victim.
I think it's so important to realize that I can't control you. Right? I can't control if you like me, if you don't like me. I can't control what you think about me. I also can't control how people react to this podcast. I can't control how they perceive this podcast. I can't control how other people perceive me.
Yeah.
I can't control if someone turns up on time or if they're late. I can't control the weather.
Yeah.
I can't control all these outworldly things. I can't control what's happening in politics. I can't control how people vote. I can't control how people feel about how people vote.
What comments they make.
Exactly. There are so many things that we can't control. And I think when we spend so much time focusing on the things that are outside of our control, we're basically just directing our power down a drain. And it is just like we're sending all of this energy, all of this power. You have so much life force within you. We all have so much life force and so much power within us to be able to change and transform our lives. And I think sometimes why people feel so powerless is because that life force is going into things that you actually can't control, you can't change. And you're spending all of this energy and all of this attention trying to manipulate something that isn't under your manipulation. Yeah. If you just take your power back and you focus on your life, your lane, what you are doing on a day-to-day basis, your habits, your beliefs, your subconscious patterns, then you're going to find so much freedom. And also just, I think, so much peace. I have so much peace when I just, in the words of Mel Robbins, like let them, honestly, when I just let people in the world do whatever it wants to do and I instead focus on my life, that's where I find peace.
1,000,000%. And I think for me, the older I get, the more I step into my power of let them. And it's completely okay what people say in the outside, because, I can't. Another way to really feel miserable is to go on social media and read comments. Like for me, like if I would want to, for myself, find like a way to feel miserable, I would just like scroll all day in my comments. I can't control what people say. Some people will love me for one thing and another person will hate me for exactly the same sentence. You can't control that, but what you can control is your response.
Yeah. Always.
And how you frame things. And I really like this attitude and perspective, because I think it's very hard for a lot of people to take that responsibility, especially when life right now isn't the way you want it to be, whether that's a relationship, a breakup that happened, whether it's a financial situation that you do not like, a job, a career shift. Do you have a piece of advice for people going through a bit of a winter right now?
I would say if you're in a winter, if you're in that season where everything feels hard and difficult, I would honestly just get a piece of paper, draw a big circle. And in that circle, write every single thing that is under your control, every single thing that you can influence, every single thing that you have power over. These are like the little things. The little things are always the big things. This is what time you wake up in the morning. This is what food choices you make. This is what people that you have in your life, what people you reply to, your boundaries, your standards. All of these things are within your control. And then I would, beyond that circle, write all the things that you're spending time on that are not within your control. So you can start to understand what is under your circle of influence. Because I think the minute you start to realize like what you can control and you start focusing on those things and you actually start moving the lever in certain areas, all of the things around will start to shift. And also you'll just start to give less of a fuck, to be honest with you. Like the minute I start controlling the controllables and surrender the rest is the minute that I feel like my power just comes back. And I just feel this sense of peace and serenity. I think it really comes down to just getting very, very clear on what is it that you're spending time on that you cannot change? What are you directing energy to that is not able to be manipulated by you directing energy to it?
100%. I love that part. It also, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs like you and me, we spend a lot of time. I don't know if it's true, let me know. But from the people I work with, the people I see in this bubble of being an entrepreneur, is we spend a lot of time focusing on the future, on what's next, right? Which can be good. Some people then who meditate and work on themselves and listen to Eckhart Tolle.
Big fan.
Yeah, me too. They learn about the present moment. I think if we spend time on focusing on the past, again, is something you can't control. That's usually when we feel disempowered. That's usually when if I look back, when my life changed, is when I stopped focusing on the past so much. The past can be a beautiful teacher, past is wisdom, all of it. But when you only focus on what happened and you can't change what happened.
Yes.
That's a really hard place. And it's tricky because your brain is a record of the past, right? So it keeps you in the same loop unless you change somehow. And you talk in your book about identity shifts.
Yes.
How do you make an identity shift happen? How do you step out of this loop of telling the same story over and over again, and you keep attracting the same things? And maybe at some point you realize, hey, I'm gonna start taking responsibility. How can I make this shift when I see, okay, for the fourth time, and I had this coming up in a coaching session, a person who came up to me in his early days, was her fourth relationship. And for the fourth time, she got cheated on. So she's like, maybe at this point, I'm really asking myself the question, am I somehow responsible for this? And I'm just sitting there,
Yeah,
like,
the red button.
I don't want to say yes, but yes. So for someone who's on the cusp of making that, of going to the side of I'm taking responsibility. Are there any things that you can share that maybe worked for you, for your clients, that you discovered in this book process, for people to make identity shifts and let go of the past?
I believe the first step to making an identity shift is to get so sick of your own shit that you've just decided that I am changing things. I am done. I am over it. When you just get to a point in your life where I'm like, I'm just not accepting this anymore. I'm raising my standards. I'm moving on. Like, I'm done with that behavior. We need to get like that with ourselves sometimes. I think we get like this with other people. We like to be like, oh, I'm so over her. How about get over the past version of yourself? Get over the version of you that's being stuck in this loop. Like, literally not make an enemy. Love that version of you for teaching you what you don't want, what you don't deserve, what you're no longer wanting to have in your life. Love them for the lessons and the upgrades, and then decide to move on and do things differently. And I think when you get so sick of your own shit and you just look at it and you go like, I'm done, that is when you can really start to do things with a fresh page perspective. I have this thing that I say in the book, which is knowing what I know now, what would I do differently? Take the past, look at the past, use it as a lesson, use it as something that you can take information from. I always say that there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback.
Yep.
People will fail again and again and again. And from failure, you get feedback. If you haven't got what you want, take the feedback from the past and really say to yourself, like, I'm not doing that again. What are the patterns? What are the things that keep reoccurring? Because there's patterns there. There's wisdom there. There's lessons there. And they're probably the things that your soul needed to come here and learn. So take that information and then start to evolve from that. Your past is just a record of where your subconscious has been. But you can change your subconscious mind. You can change your beliefs. You can change your identity. And all change starts right here, right now. It's not changing in the past. It's not changing in the future. It's in this moment. This moment is where you'll always find your power.
Goosebumps.
I love that.
We talked about this earlier. Always when I have goosebumps, there's something profound that was said or something that really deeply resonated with me. There was one of those moments, because I think this is some powerful stuff. The moment when you say, enough is enough. And I was just in my head thinking about the moments in my life when I said, like, I have enough of this. Like, if I keep doing this, what will be the consequences in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years of repeating the same old story, doing the same old behavior? For example, I hope we can talk about relationships, because we spoke earlier with your...
with my lover, 14 years.
With your lover, we say we were talking about partner. You apparently, for Americans, we can't say partner.
I've heard a lot. The Americans can let us know in the comments of the podcast.
Please let us know.
Please let us know in the comments. I've heard many times when I say my partner, people think I'm with a woman, which I have no problem with that. I love women, but I'm not with a woman for 14 years. She would have been a hell of a woman if I was. She was. I would love to have a 14-year relationship with a woman. That would be a whole other experience. But no, my lover is a man, and we've been together for 14 years.
Yeah, that is something just outstanding, remarkable. And we share more and more of our wins, which I like. You know, it's not just, it's more accepted, I would say, to talk about how much money you make, to celebrate your wins. I think being in a relationship for 14 years, that is quite an achievement.
Yeah.
Like, that is something outstanding that shows and proves so much.
Yeah.
And so I hope we can talk about this bit a bit later. Something I saw in my relationships, especially in my first relationships, was for the majority of my life, I believe that showing emotion as a man is considered a weakness. So my blueprints, my program, my subconscious mind was, of course, influenced by my caregivers, who came from the Soviet Union. And so it's all about, you don't show emotions.
Yeah.
You don't cry. Like, when you cry, this is weakness. You don't do that. That worked until I was 17, 18. And, I had my first relationship, and I'm like, why are you crying about this? This is weakness. And I would get uncomfortable. And at some point, I had this moment of, it's enough. It's hurting me to hold on to this belief, because my reality has shown me, basically, hey, this is not a weakness. And I could not have a relationship with anybody if I keep holding on to this belief of, like, showing emotion, of crying. If that, tell that to a woman.
That would have not gone down very well.
Yeah. Say, woman, like, every single time you cry, that's a weakness. You're like, well, you don't understand me.
You're about to get killed, boy.
So
back up.
Yeah. And so at some point, I had to ask myself, like, if I keep holding on to the same old story, the same old belief that probably my parents got from their parents, and they got it from their parents, and I just don't want to hold on to the same old story for the next 5 years, 10 years, back to the client. If she keeps doing the same thing, you get cheated on again and again and again and again. What are the consequences of that? And I love to work with pleasure, but I also like to work with pain, right? So that is something apparently that you find as well really powerful, to ask yourself, okay, if I don't change, if I don't change, what are the consequences in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? If I keep doing the same old thing.
I think it's really important that people think about that. And I think that's something that it's beautiful to stay in the present moment, and it's beautiful to be right here, right now. But I think if you're not happy in your present moment, if you're not fulfilled, if you don't feel that you're having and creating a life that turns you on and lights you up and makes you excited to get out of bed in the morning, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So you have to really ask yourself, like, is this what I want for the rest of my life? Is this what I'm willing to accept? Like, is this the standard that I've set for my life? And that's not always an easy thing. That can bring up a lot of discomfort. It can bring up a lot of pain. It can make us realize that maybe we got on the wrong train and we took it for too long, and it's going to be quite expensive and an investment to get back. But at the same time, we have to realize, like, if you're not going in the right direction, then like this is your one shot at you. You only have one life. I always think about this. This is something I think about on a very regular basis. I think that we're souls having an eternal experience, but I only have one shot as me, as this meat puppet, as Rochelle Fox. You only have one shot as you, as Axel, as this meat puppet. And I have this ability to have this experience as me, and I need to make it the best experience I can for what I have. And I think that people forget that this isn't a fucking dress rehearsal. This is like, it's really not. Like, you don't get to do this again. Like, this is not the warm up. Like, this is it. This is your life. This is center stage. Like, you're on, baby. Like, this is, the curtain will call. There won't be like some finale at the end where you get to come out and do it again. Like, it closes.
What if that creates pressure on someone who's listening right now?
I think the pressure sometimes isn't a bad thing. I think if it creates pressure right here, right now, that's okay. Maybe you just need to feel that pressure, feel like the weight of that. Because there is a weight to that, the fact that we only live once and we don't get to do it again. But feel that pressure and then realize that you can alchemize it. Pressure is a real thing. You know, if you feel pressure right here, right now, that's okay. Maybe it's because you haven't thought about the weight of that. And I think sometimes some of the biggest transformations in my life and the changes that have occurred in my life have come from those moments of stress or of pressure, because that's just a sign that, okay, maybe I really am on the wrong train. And now you've just got to think about things a little differently.
The wrong train.
Yeah.
The longer you stay on the long train, the more expensive it becomes to turn around.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice to, if you're listening right now and you know, like, right now I'm on the wrong train, and my intuition, my heart already screamed multiple times, get the heck off this train, turn around, it's the wrong train. This podcast, this book might be your permission slip. It might be the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I think that we have to sometimes take these moments in our life and actually give them some weight, because your life is just an unfolding of moments, and every single moment is just unfolding. But when you can look back, and you ask on your podcast a lot, like, what is one defining moment? I want people to remember listening to this, like, you can choose your defining moment. Your defining moment is simply just a decision. It's that main character moment when you realize that you're not a side character. You are actually the creator of your reality. You are the one steering the ship. You are riding the car. You are the one that is in control, in charge, and taking that power back and deciding that I'm actually going to start taking control. And that all just starts with a decision. And a lot of the time, it's not some of my biggest moments, and I talk about this in the book, but I had these huge eureka moments on a beanbag in like King's Cross in Sydney, where my partner used to go and smoke weed. like this used to be like the prime weed smoking spot that he used to just like sit at and like have a little pipesy. And I used to just sit there and not smoke so much weed, but like sit there and stare at the wall. And I've had some of my biggest eureka moments on a couch. Like, my journey was not I've lived in Bali like you, and I run retreats in Bali, and I've had a whole chapter in Bali. I don't live there right now, but I think a lot of the time we have this vision that our life is meant to be some eat, pray, love adventure, or it's meant to be some storybook. Some of my biggest eureka, like penny drop, like breakthrough, spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul moments, it happened on a couch, burnt out, tired, depressed, anxious. Like, that to me was my moment. And that's nothing special. I think that that's something that so many of us go through. And I think you just have to decide that I'm going to make a shift.
I just had this moment in my head when I was sitting in my car. I was about to tell my former boss that I'm not signing the contract to keep working there, and they just, they rebuilt the office for me so that I would have a place to work. They've invested so much money into me, basically, because they really believed in me. But I noticed I was on the wrong train. I kind of knew like if I stay on this train for just another year, I'm gonna regret it. Like that was like a aha moment, like a breakthrough moment. You call it,
Yeah, like a gut feeling.
yeah, a life-changing moment. And I remember sitting in this car, and I'm like, I'm gonna tell him. And I was sitting for 30 minutes in this car. All I had to do was walk into the office, say what I wanted to say. I think he already knew because it was my holiday. And I'm like, could I talk to you for 3 minutes today? I know you're super busy, but I need to speak to you. He kind of already knew that, like, this must be something big. The guy's coming voluntarily into the office on his holiday. The reason why I'm sharing this is because for the first time really in my life, I was trusting my intuition more than my intellect. At some point, I remember in this car, I was nervous, I was anxious, I was feeling all of this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this feeling of like having this big, massive stone in your stomach?
Yeah.
And you're like, when is this going away? I'm like, it's not gonna go away. So you mentioned Mel Robbins here earlier. I read this book, 5-second rule. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! I went into the office. I sat down. I shared what I wanted to share. I was worried about him getting disappointed. He was disappointed. I walked out of this office feeling great. Feeling so, I felt still, like my heart was beating. But I felt empowered. Still had no clue what I was gonna do. I just bought a one-way ticket to town. But the reason why I'm sharing this is, for the first time, I was trusting my heart, my intuition, and I really reflected. This is not what I want to do. And makes a lot of sense on paper, but my heart is like, sorry, Habibi, don't do it.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, the people around me, my family, they were like, what are you doing? Because that was before I had any followers or whatsoever. It was the moment I became magnetic.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting with what you shared. I always remind people that your life doesn't have to make sense to anyone other than you.
Yeah.
And I think that we spend so much time looking for other people to understand our choices, to get approval from people outside of ourselves. But your life isn't going to make sense to anyone else other than you. No one else understands you the way that you understand yourself. No one else has the same soul and the same blueprint and the same path and the same desires as you do. And I think the minute that you stop looking for that external validation and instead you start following that internal compass, to me, that is when the magic unfolds.
Yeah, when you can also hold space and accept and be okay with other people not liking your decision.
Yeah.
Right, and in other areas, we already do that. Good example is Louisa sitting here. She loves truffle, okay? I hate truffle. Like, I can't stand truffle. I accept the fact that she doesn't like truffle and vice versa, right? But when we have a different idea of success for someone, a job, a business, we kind of like, we can't accept that we are different. We're like, this, my way is the right way. For many people, that's the belief, at least for where I grew up. So I think it's a key skill for us to learn.
Yeah.
To be okay with other people not liking your decisions, other people not liking the things you say.
Yeah. One of the things that really helps me is just to remember that everyone else has a very vivid inner world. Everyone has a completely different inner world, inner reality, inner different programming to what we do. Yeah. And when you start to think about other people's inner world, it really starts to make sense as to why certain people do the things that they do. I think about this a lot because I've studied the subconscious and I'm very, very big on subconscious reprogramming. And I really understand why my parents maybe didn't believe in certain things that I was doing or didn't understand certain things, because how could they? They're in a completely different generation. They have a completely different set of programming. And at the end of the day, all they wanted for me was safety and security and structure, and I'm sure your parents as well. The company, German kind of like Eastern Bloc, like having security, and that to them makes sense. And when you do something different, like, of course it's not going to make sense to them because their inner world, their construct, their subconscious reality is completely different to yours.
And when you stop waiting for their approval, when you stop, like when I was sitting in the car, when you stop waiting for the perfect moment, that's when life becomes very magical.
Agreed.
When you stop for this approval from other people, from even some of my friends, some people who love me the most. But now I think I just became okay with it, accepted it. Some people like it, some people won't. It's a tough skill to master. You were speaking about the subconscious mind, and obviously the subconscious mind has a profound impact on how we react towards things and how well we cope with not being accepted. For me, for example, my mom passed away really early in my life, so there is, let's say, a bigger abandonment wound than for other people. So I know that about myself, but I also knew the program that was installed of me because of life and because of certain traumas. I really have to change my subconscious mind in some ways. So if you can walk us through maybe a brief overview, what is the conscious mind, what is the subconscious mind, and why is it so powerful to change your subconscious mind? And if then we can give people a couple of practical tools to change your subconscious mind, that would be brilliant.
Of course. So I love talking about the subconscious. I think that it's one of the most powerful levers in our life when we really start to understand that 95% of our life is really being run by our unconscious from our subconscious mind, and the 5% that we can see is the conscious. And the way I like to describe it is, think about a computer. So if you have a computer, the screen of the computer, everything that you can see on the screen, that's the conscious mind. But beneath the screen, there is a whole entire ecosystem of things that are making that screen run. You've got the programs, you've got the wires, you've got this whole entire system below, and that is the subconscious. It is the coding, it is the wiring, it is the hardware, it is the system, it is the energy. It's really the thing that allows the screen to be there. And when it comes to rewiring the subconscious, it's really about realizing that although our subconscious has been imprinted, and although we all have a subconscious of where we are right now, it can be changed. It can be altered. It can be transformed.
Good news.
Very good news. However, most of our subconscious is a result of our programming from the ages of 0 to 7. This is when we were learning how to be human. I call it the learning how to be human years. This is when you had come into the world as a fresh, programmed baby that was just there picking everything up around you. So your subconscious is formed in many different ways. It is formed by the pictures that you see or didn't see. It's shaped by your cultural influences, the people that you grew up with, the customs that they had, the community that they were around, the way that they thought and felt, how they reacted to things. Heterosuggestion, which is external suggestions outside of yourself, so the things people said to you or the advertisements that you saw growing up. It's also programmed by your parents or your caregivers, the things that they said or didn't say, or the rules that they had, or the reasons they gave you as to why things are a certain kind of way. So the subconscious mind it's a big sponge, really, from the ages of 0 to 7. And from the ages of 0 to 7, it's just picking everything up. And a lot of the things that it picks up don't make logical sense. This is why we believe in Santa Claus, right? Cover your ears. Anyone who's listening with kids.
Wait.
So I think it's important to remember that there are so many things, and we go back in our childhood, we think about the kind of ridiculousness of things that we believed.
Yeah.
But also I think that it's important to connect back with that inner child and that imagination, that ability to be able to see the unseen. When you're a little kid, it didn't have to logically make sense. You could be an astronaut or a YouTuber or a dancer or a flamingo player, whatever you wanted to be. You could be these things because you could imagine it.
And you felt like it.
Yeah, and you felt like it.
You really, oh my gosh, all of us visualized before. Because when you remember when you built like a little... how do you call it? I don't know. I might I'll describe. So maybe it's also a German thing. I don't know. But we, as kids, we would build almost like a cave at home, and we would make the entire. We felt like being in a cave. That was like a thing. Or you would pretend you're cooking. Yeah. You would pretend having a restaurant, and you really in that moment you felt like it.
Yes, 100%. And this is because we aren't, attached to that logical brain yet. Everything is malleable, and we're able to just be in that vivid imagination.
Yeah.
And then as we get older, things become a little bit more set. And some of the subconscious programs and the things that people said, even though they don't make logical sense, they're in our subconscious mind. They're stored as programs. I always give the example that I love to use, which is I often see people walking on planes with little kids, right? And they'll walk on a plane and they're, going and flying. And to fly is a massive privilege, right? Like anyone that's flying, huge privilege to be able to get on a plane and fly somewhere. But I see often families getting on a plane and then the kids will ask, are we sitting in these seats as they're going past business class or first class? Because there's these big, beautiful, like gorgeous seats that look really, really exciting. And you feel as a little kid, like, I want to sit in there. Like, wow, it looks like a spaceship. Business class to a little kid must look like a spaceship. And then I often hear, and I've heard this many times now, and it's kind of wild that I've heard the same thing over and over again, where the mom or the dad will look at the kid and go, those seats aren't for us, sweetie. Not for people like us. We're sitting down the back. And then a little kid hearing something like that will have in their subconscious mind this program that this isn't for someone like me, right? This is separate from me. I'm not like people like that. Something so small as that can have such a profound impact on our life growing up, because then we all of a sudden have this separation. We believe that we're not worthy of it or it's not possible for us. And then we run this program in our head that this is what we're limited to. And unless we do the work to understand that you could fly business class. Yes, it might take some work and effort, and it might take you getting a job and doing certain things and investing, or however you're going to earn money to go and fly business class, then you basically change that program and decide, oh, I can do that. But then a lot of people just grow up thinking that's never possible for me. And it's just something that someone said.
Whether you have success or not with your personal brand is not coincidence. It's a consequence of taking certain steps and following a certain strategy. If you take a person who's overweight, who's not fit, and you give that person the strategy of someone who's incredibly fit, meaning the strategy for their training, the strategy for their nutrition, what would happen if the unfit person would follow that strategy for a long time, for a while, consistently? I hope the decision that you are making is watching the free training that I've created for you, 5 steps, this strategy that takes your personal brand to 10K months or even 10K days. Maybe at some point 10K hours. Because the beautiful thing about having your own personal brand is your income is in your control. I'm not going to pretend and say it's for everybody. So this training, this is really for people who are serious, who want to help, who want to create a personal brand and scale their personal brand to have a bigger impact, to help people. People who are just in it for the money, they rarely succeed. If you are an impact creator, I like to call a personal brand with a positive impact and positive intentions, then this training is for you. I give you my strategy that has been working for me, my clients, and will work for you. So join us right now. Very simple but powerful sentence. It's just something that someone once said.
Yeah.
And so many of the thoughts that we believe or that we think are the same thoughts we thought yesterday. And if we really track it down, most of the thoughts are not even ours.
Oh, I love doing this. I always tell my students, get out a piece of paper, write down all of the thoughts that you think repetitively. Write down all of the things that you hear inside my head. I'm not good enough. I suck. I'll never find a man like him. If I don't find a guy by the age of 30, I'm worthless. Whatever it is, all these little stories, little repeating patterns that you have in your head, write them down, then look at them and start labeling whose voice or where it comes from. Was it from society? Was it from your mother? Was it from your wild auntie? Was it from your uncle? Was it from your friend growing up? I honestly have this practice in my head that I've done for years. I'm very big on meditation. That's the thing that changed and transformed my life. It was like my penny drop moment. Ever since I started meditating, I listen to the voice inside my head and I'll have a belief or something comes up and I'm like, there's my dad. There's mom. There's my cousin. There is that show that I watched back in the day. I have these beliefs. And when you can start to label where they come from and start to name where they're from, you create distance from them. You start realizing that those are just things. They're not actually you, right? You start to just push them away from you and you start to observe them from an observer mindset, from a third-party perspective, because we take too much ownership of our thoughts. Oh my gosh, please do not take ownership of all your thoughts, because so much of your thoughts are just an absolute shit show of all of the things that you've collected over the years that you haven't taken inventory of. It's sort of like having this giant pile of clothes that people have been throwing inside of you your whole entire life. And you're like, this belongs to me, that belongs to me. No, it's not. It's your uncle's old sweater that he threw at you and now you're claiming it as your own. You don't even like that. Why are you holding on to that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. One of my favorite quotes of all time, or it's not necessarily a quote, it's a piece of advice from someone called Jim Rohn. Do you know?
Oh my gosh, I love finding new people.
Yeah, Jim Rohn was the original mentor of Tony Robbins.
Oh wait, and I have heard of him.
Yeah, he's a legend. Rest in peace, Jim Rohn. Early days after I quit, my job, I was listening to all of his tapes and everything. And he used to say, stand guard at the door of your mind.
Oh yeah.
I was like, stand guard at the door of your mind. It's like almost like there are certain clubs, you've been to Berlin, where you have those guards and they decide who's coming in, who's not, right? And that's why I think meditation is so powerful, because you are like, wait a second, this thought. Do I let this thought in? Is this really is this something I like or not? And the same is Jim Rohn. He used to explain this with a cup of coffee. That sometimes even if a friend drops poison into your coffee, what do you tell your friend? Right? You say, don't drink it. It's poisonous. If a stranger puts sugar into your coffee, what do you have? You have sweet coffee. And the reason why he says this is you should watch your coffee. You should watch your mind. And recently I had a former monk on my podcast. He said the same thing. One of the best pieces of advice he ever had was watch your mind. Because most of the time, it's not yours.
Yeah. And that's one of the most powerful things about meditation is the observer mindset. If I didn't learn how to meditate, God help me. Oh my gosh. I used to just believe every single little thing that flew around in my head. I used to take my mind as gospel. And that's a wild thought because we have like so many thoughts every single day. The science says
60,000.
Yeah. What? Like if I'm believing all of those things, it's not 60,000 positive thoughts.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to weight your thoughts and you have to weight the opinions inside your head and start to like really ask, where did this come from?
Yeah. Who are you even?
Literally. That's labeling. It's my favorite thing. I'm like, uncle, mother, cousin. Like this helps me so much because it gets distance between you and the thoughts.
Yeah. I also, what I like to do is to really look at the thought and not run away, like not trying to like suppress it, but actually like, is that really true? Sometimes I don't know how it is for you, I'm curious to hear, but sometimes I have thoughts about how other people perceive me. And then when I'm like, is that really true right now? Like, do you think that about me? And they're like, no way. I would have never thought that about you. Do you sometimes have this voice like this person doesn't like me or this person and then you ask and they're like, what are you talking about, honey? So I think sometimes it's beautiful to actually face the thought and deal. Like I had, while you were talking, there was the story coming up. I think I was like maybe 10 or 11. It was one of my first parties and there was this friend of mine who said, you can't dance. Like I saw you on the dance floor and you can't dance. And for I think like 9 or 10 years, this voice, his judgment became my reality just because of this one opinion. If I'm really being honest, this was in my head for almost a decade just because of one, not stranger, but one friend making an opinion.
Yeah. I think that it is so powerful to recognize that. And then when you change that, you realize like, why did I just live my life based on that one piece of evidence that someone said that isn't even true, but it was like what they projected onto you.
I love the practical exercises you're giving and you're sharing about the subconscious mind. Is there another tool or another way to reflect on how's your subconscious mind serving you or not serving you? Is there anything that helped you or something you recommend to your students to do to see like, okay, my subconscious mind?
I think one thing with the subconscious mind that's really interesting is it can be very overwhelming when you start working with the subconscious mind because you could think that you have to go back to every single little traumatic memory or every single little thing in your life to try and figure out what your programs are. I know when I first started looking at subconscious mind, I'm like, wow, like what are we doing? We're spending the next 5 years digging up every single little funny thing that I ever heard. And I was just overwhelmed by it. The thing that I like to say though is just look at your life and look at what's not flowing, what's not happening. Maybe look at the patterns that keep reoccurring and then start to focus on those things one step at a time. I'm a big believer. Look, I love the personal development world. I love the healing world, but I think sometimes we focus too much on doing the work and not enough on actually living our lives and having fun. And I think we can become very overwhelmed by trying to do everything all at once. And when we do that, especially if we're someone that has been through trauma or we're, kind of on a healing journey, we can be in this identity, going back to identity, we can be in this identity of like, I'm broken, I'm not good enough. There is so much to fix. Okay, if you feel that way, you might have a lot of things that need work, but don't look at it as this giant, overwhelming thing. Just take one thing at a time.
Yeah,
and often I ask myself, like, what's the one thing that would have an impact on everything else? So I think that rather than looking at all of the things, say like, if there is one thing that I could change about myself, whether it's money or a relationship or happiness, what is the one thing right now that if that changed and that transformed, if I could change a subconscious program, that would have a trickle-down effect on everything else? Because sometimes it's just a root cause of one thing that is impacting everything else in our life.
Let's pause there. Let's pause and let's all do it together. Like, can you repeat the question one more time? I'm going to ask you to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same thing.
All right. I love it. Live coaching. Let's go.
Let's go.
So what is one thing that if you were to change or transform, it would impact every single other area of your life, that you feel like right now you do not have a supportive subconscious program? You have a belief that is telling you you're not that kind of person, you're not that identity, it's not possible for you.
What is one thing? Okay, I have something that came up.
I'll give you 5 things that I'm wrenching through.
The thing that came up for me was if I would stop thinking about how my message is perceived and stop wanting to be liked by everybody, by clients. I often have I notice this thought, this pattern of like, do they think it's valuable? And then it happened last week. It was hilarious. We did this exercise, something I've never done before. Like sometimes I try, I just test and try and see, like something I want to do, I do it, I'm innovative. And there was this one girl I saw in the, it was online. So I saw her Zoom window and she looked so bored. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And I would, catch myself. And then the seconds after I was talking, and I was still in my head, like, she probably thinks we're like idiots because it was something different. Okay. And then later she posted a message in our Slack channel. She's like, I love this. This changed my life. And I'm like, Axel, sometimes you are such a bad fortune teller. Like you think you know what people think, but sometimes you really don't. Like when you're in the same room and you can feel it, maybe it's a different thing. But what would help me so much is just letting go of that and really even trusting more the serving part. Like as long as I serve, as long as I give my best, it's all good. And most people will like it and some people won't. But really, the question that you asked, it would help me in every area. Yeah. Also my friendships, in everything. Because sometimes I have this, right now he doesn't like me for being this way. And so most of the time it's bullshit.
Love that. Isn't it so funny how you can identify that one thing would just have a trickle-down effect on not only your work, your profession, but your relationships with other people, how you feel. And it's so interesting because a lot of the times it's the things that we think about when it's not actually happening. I'm sure this is something that you ruminate on, right? It goes around in your head. You focus on this even when it's not happening. And that's, to me, how you find something that is so powerful to shift. Because one thing I always like to say to people when it comes to being a meditation teacher, and probably the most challenging thing about my job, unlike a personal trainer where I could watch you do a squat and I could tell you how your glutes are going, how straight your back was, how your knees were going. I could instruct every single little thing. as someone who teaches meditation and teaches the subconscious mind, I can't see inside your mind. I only know what you tell me. And I think that sometimes this is why it is so invaluable to realize that we must become our own coaches. Yes, you get a coach, get someone outside of yourself that is helping and influencing you and supporting you, but having practices where you can be your own coach, having that self-awareness, having that ability to watch your own thoughts and to call yourself out on your own bullshit and get so sick of your own shit because no one knows what's going on inside your mind, inside your vivid inner world other than you until you express it. And then you can have these things and these patterns that are going on for years and years and years. And this is why we need to call ourselves out on our own bullshit.
Yeah. Sometimes even say it out loud. I wish I would have in that moment, because she probably would have told me, what are you talking about, Axel? I'm having the time of my life here.
Yeah.
I think for me, the pattern would be letting go of control and just being okay with it. Just I serve, I do my best, and I let people have their experience with it. What came up for you?
Oh, this is an interesting one. I think right now I'm moving through the belief that I'm not a morning person. This has been huge for me. I go through stages of having great mornings and then not having great mornings. And I've always had this belief that this is something that I struggle with, that I'm not a morning person. And I'm really working on rewiring that. It's a little thing, but the funny thing is, if I could just really master my mornings a lot more, the trickle-down effect that it would have on my life is quite profound. And I've learned in that, because I'm actively working on that it's not necessarily about my mornings, it's about my evenings. Because my evening routine is sometimes not that supportive of what I want to do in the morning. And I think sometimes we focus too much on our mornings when really it's our evening.
Very true.
Yeah.
How's that affecting your life? Or how would it...
Oh, well, I was just...
How is it negatively affecting your life? And maybe for everybody listening, watching, you can ask yourself the same question, because your brain is wired to avoid pain and to seek pleasure. So it's nice to play with those pain-pleasure connections. How's it negatively affecting your life? Like the certain evening routine? I'm very curious to hear. What is it, like TikTok scrolling?
No, so,
and how would it change things for you?
Well, I just spent a few months in Australia. All of my team work in Europe. So we've been working at a 12-hour time zone difference. So my evenings have been about work. And then I've been waking up thinking about work. So I haven't had a wind down routine. So then I wake up, I'm kind of in this like, oh my gosh, I haven't actually had a refresh. So for me, it's negatively affecting me in the sense of it's kind of creating, I think when you don't master or when you kind of get into a not so good season of being strict or disciplined with your evening and morning routines, it really like sleep bleeds into absolutely every single aspect of our life. It affects intimacy, it affects relationships, it affects your communication, it affects your sleep, it affects how you wake up in the morning, how you think, how you process information. And for me, it's so interesting because I feel I am always working at different places and different time zones, and I have to just, rather than letting the time zone and the circumstances of where I am kind of impact everything, I have to be stricter and tell myself that going back to the levels of like the circles of control, I actually have control over this. I'm just allowing myself to blame everything else around me. So I have to make like other adjustments and create stronger boundaries. And I think that that's really interesting in the sense that sometimes I think in life, we forget how powerful boundaries are. And
yes.
Not only boundaries for other people, because I think we talk about having boundaries for other people so much. Like I have this boundary with this person, how I'm going to let them treat me. But how about the boundaries you have with yourself?
How about the boundaries you have with your work?
Yeah. How about the boundaries that you have when no one else is looking, when no one else is watching, with your phone? Like when I am not in Australia, I have really good boundaries with my phone. When I am in Australia, because of the 12-hour time difference, I feel like my boundaries with my phone go out the window, and that's something I need to improve.
Yeah. You and I were both people who went through a lot of shit. You and I were both people, I would say, who turned shit into gold.
Yeah, pain into purpose.
Adversity into gifts. I think a lot of your skills, I can notice.
Challenges into triumphs. We're just going to do a word off here.
Again, feels like a book club.
Yeah, it is. We are in book club.
That's amazing. The reason why I'm bringing this up is not to brag, but we can also brag. It's no problem. I have no problem with bragging. I think it's actually something that's random thought, but sometimes I love the random thoughts on other podcasts, so why not here? It's very normal to brag with cars. I mean, we're in Dubai right now, right? With your Lamborghini.
The land of abundance.
Yeah. With your cars, the cigars, the watches. But when you brag about, when I speak about building a school, I kid you not, I get more negative judgment than if I would be bragging or if I would be posting a picture with a very expensive watch. So I think there's nothing bad about bragging, also about the achievements you made or I made, or, if you're listening right now, one of the first questions I would have if I would meet you is like, what are moments that make you incredibly proud? Because you talk a lot about meditation, and the word meditation itself means to become familiar with. One of my favorite meditations, to think about all the amazing things that I have already achieved. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that you went through a lot, you changed, and I think that can give a lot of people hope. I'm very open about growing up with an alcoholic in my family. Every single time when I do that, people tell me, hey, Axel, thank you so much for sharing that side, because I went through the same thing. And my whole life, I thought I was alone with this. But apparently there's light. So if you reflect on your life, I said earlier, past is wisdom. If you reflect on your life, what were a couple of key learnings that turned things around for you? What were a couple of moments that made you magnetic? Magnetic in the sense that you started to not just chase someone else's version of a happy life, that you didn't just accept how things were and you kept repeating the same old thing. Something I saw in my family. It's like trauma from generation to the next generation and then to the next generation. I'm like, is anybody looking at this shit, right? Like, do I have to be this person? Yeah. But I'm just trying to give people light and giving people tools. And I have so much respect for you. You told me a bit about your story. I mean, you shared a bit of your story in the book. I love the Oprah moment. I love the moment when you also talk about anxiety and PTSD and all of those things. Because if I wouldn't have read this, I would have never guessed. Because you come into the room, you bring this force of light and sunshine energy, and you feel like a double shot of espresso. So, couple of moments that you would like to share with people, and perhaps with your younger self, if you could.
I think moments that made me magnetic, one big moment for me was when I started deciding what success means to me and realizing that success is subjective. Because I think that for most of my life, I walked around and I looked at the world and I thought that success was, a family, 2 kids, a white picket fence, a certain kind of car, a certain salary. I had all these ages connected to all these different things. Yeah. And when I started to create my own version of success and realize that success is completely subjective and what is success to me may not be success to another person, that was a huge moment for myself, because I believe that in that moment I became so much more magnetic to my true authentic self, because I stopped chasing things outside of myself and I started to instead look for things within myself, and that was huge. Another moment that I feel has made me very magnetic. Look, when you're talking about bragging and being proud, I'm really, really proud of the work that I do, especially with my retreats company. I have a company called Minds by Retreats, and we run retreats all around the world. I am obsessed as a person with transformation. I'm a transformation junkie in the sense that I love the ripple effect. If I can see how one small little thing that I have said or done or written or shared has impacted anyone's life in any positive way, that for me turns me on. That's why I get up in the morning. This is why I do the things, why I put up with the negative comments on Instagram if I ever get them, because to me, just having like an impact in someone's life is it's one of the best things you could do. And it doesn't have to be some big profound thing, but just like these little things that can have shifts. I have so much respect for the people that walked before me, right? I feel like there are so many teachers and mentors that I owe so much of my mindset and my worldview to, because they were daring enough to share a different perspective. They were daring enough to, say things that were maybe uncomfortable, but maybe people were triggered by, that not everyone understood.
Yeah.
And it was through their ability to speak their truth and just to be their genuine, authentic self and to look at things from a different perspective that I was able to look at my life from a different perspective. I think that going back to bragging, I'm such a big proponent for people just talking about their success and what they do and what they've achieved and how much money they're making and celebrating themselves, because I think we need more of that.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's so important to be able to look at other people and realize that if you feel, and I always, talk about this when it comes to the subconscious mind, I feel like so many people get so fixated on this idea of jealousy and that oh my gosh, this person has this, and comparison. And that's huge in our day and age. We have so many pictures and things that we see online and TikTok and social media. It can be really, really hard to constantly see other people's best version of themselves and their best life if we feel like we're not living our own authentic best life. But I would always say to people, if you look at someone else's life and you feel a sense of jealousy or a sense of comparison, I always say if it's triggering you, maybe it's just activating you into what's possible. Maybe it is there to show you that someone else's light doesn't take away from your own. It actually just shows you this is possible for you. And the funny thing I think about the subconscious mind is that there's this thing that can happen with the subconscious that's really interesting, where you can set a vision for your life and you say, I want to attract this thing, or I want to earn this certain amount of money, or I want to become a coach, or I want to launch the retreat, whatever it is. You have this vision for yourself and you start thinking about it and focusing on it. And then your reticular activating system, it's going to find lots of different things in life that are a reflection of that because you're focusing on it.
Yep.
Just like if you say you want a red car, you're going to see red cars everywhere, right? But people don't take this as evidence. They don't take this as proof.
Yep.
Instead, they look at it and they go, there's evidence that there's so much competition out there. And that to me is when we're having a lack mindset rather than a growth mindset. Another person's light and their success is just showing you what's possible. And I think it's so important to celebrate that.
1,000,000%. And
I went on a tangent there.
No. I think it's also important because we also live in this trigger society. This is triggering me. When you talk about money, this is triggering me. I mean, that's one way to do life. You can, say something is triggering me and then you run away and you never look at what is it actually for you. Why is it triggering you?
It's activating you. If you're triggered, you're activated.
If someone on social media is showing their income, for example, amazing. Inspiring. If it's more than I make, amazing. Thank you so much for showing me. In fact, there are a couple of people that did that to show me that this was possible. Because when I started, the people around me, they were the first question they had was, how do you make money with this? I had no answer. I didn't know. That's not why I started. But oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that other people showed me hey, this is possible. Because if they would have not done it, I don't know if I would have ever opened myself up to it. So I think if something is triggering you, then it's a nice invitation to look at. Why is it triggering you?
And I think sometimes our triggers can be like a compass. They can be a GPS. And I think that we have to just look within inside ourselves and say well, what is this actually teaching me about myself? What is it that I'm not looking at?
Yeah. Because if I say something if I tell you have black hair, you would say I don't have black hair. Why would I get triggered? Why would I get offended? Right? And so when someone says something about you, makes a comment, and you get activated, it's a nice invitation to actually look, why am I getting activated? Why am I getting jealous? Why am I getting... why do I compare myself in a negative way? So I think it's actually a really, really good point that you're bringing up. And for me, a nice indication of whether someone has stepped into their power and where they are in their journey of self-awareness and their growth mindset.
Yeah, I always think that, someone else can't make you feel something without a part of you consenting to that.
Yeah.
You have to just look at it and be well, why am I letting this control me? And is it in my circle of influence or is it outside my circle of influences? Can I control it or can I not control it?
Yeah.
Let them.
I have a good example. The other day I went to a gathering. Let's call it a gathering, and someone just joke, right? But sometimes jokes can be painful too. Said Axel, where did you forget your 6-pack today?
Oh, ouch!
And I was what? Ouch? Not really. No, really, I started laughing. I'm like, this is really interesting because I actually stand out at the door of your mind. I was waiting to respond. I'm like, at some point of my life, I would have been probably offended. I'm like, how dare you say something like this? And at some point of my life, I said, I can't control what people say about me. So
just unnecessary though.
Unnecessary, but it didn't affect me. I didn't get triggered or whatsoever. I think it was a funny thing to say. And again, there was even a little bit of truth behind it because the evening before we ate very salty. So she was right. I wasn't as lean as I usually am. I also don't give a fuck. I think that should be the goal, that not outside things are controlling how you feel, but you're in control. You're zen. Whatever people say, you're like, okay, well, how do I want to react? How do I want to respond? I think that's the goal, 100%. to be zen, and I think that will be part of being magnetic. Because imagine you get offended every single time, or you get frustrated every single time there's a traffic jam.
Something that I think is like a key lesson in my book Magnetic is that a magnet has two poles. It attracts, but it also repels. And I think we focus so much on the attracting part. We focus so much on to be magnetic is to attract, it's to draw in. But actually, some of the people that I think are the most magnetic in this world are the ones that are incredibly polarizing. They're repelling. You love Taylor Swift. I am also a bit of a Swiftie. Taylor Swift has an absolute magnetic aura. She has this very, 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 very strong polarity. You have all of these people that love and celebrate her and think she's incredible and will fly around the world for her concerts and buy all of their outfits to just be in her atmosphere, in her universe.
Spend thousands for just a single day with her,
And then you have all these people that absolutely hate her, that can't stand her, that complain every single time that a camera goes on her in the NFL. And this is the thing. She is magnetic because she not only attracts people, she repels. And I think that we can become so focused on, if people don't like me, if people have an issue with me and what I say, I'm like, well, that's great. I'm being polarizing. I am being magnetic because if you don't stand for something, then you stand for nothing. And I feel that you have to realize that actually your uniqueness, your authentic truth, that is going to be polarizing to other people. And otherwise, I'm not vanilla ice cream. I like vanilla ice cream, but I don't want to just be some vanilla person out there. I want to stand for something. I want to have an opinion. I want to speak my truth. And I don't mind when people don't 100% agree with me. Would I like to live in a world where everyone sees things from my point of view? Yes, probably my nervous system would be like, oh, that sounds really nice and juicy. But we don't, and that's okay. And I think that what's right for you won't be right for someone else. And we do live in, I think it's so interesting. We have to realize that we do live in different worlds in some ways, and we make different choices to live in those different worlds. And I think that, while we are all part of a collective whole, we are all creating our own individual universe. And we make our own rules. When you really think about this, why is it that one person can have something and another person doesn't? It's literally just to me, it's cause and effect. It's a collection of their beliefs, their choices, the way that they live their life. And I think that we have to take more responsibility for that. If you want to live in a different reality, if you want to have a different result in your life, then you have to look at well, what are you doing that isn't a match, for that right now?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. There was an Ed Sheeran interview. He did a podcast recently. He doesn't do many podcasts.
Oh, Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran. And he was talking exactly about this.
Oh, really?
Because he was reflecting about his life, his career. And he was like, you know what? So many people hate my music. So for so many people, he had to learn the skill to be okay with it. And then there are some people, it's just actually a tiny percentage of the population, who adore his music, who love him for making the music he wants to make. And I think it's very true for a lot of artists and a lot of amazing people actually who've done great things. So if you're triggering people, you might be onto something.
I very much agree with that.
And I had this experience in my life when I started listening to podcasts and doing self-development work. There were a couple of people who actually triggered me a lot. And a couple of years later, I'm like, really grateful for that trigger. you know? And sometimes I get messages, I'm sure it's for you the same thing, like, hey, Axel, you said something 4 years ago. It triggered me so much. Now, 4 years later, I'm so grateful that you said that because I looked at this and I changed this. I actually have one person working for me now who came with this story.
I love
It's
that.
like, Axel, you were so, it's triggered me so much. You were talking about money and it felt like you were so money driven and until I did the reality check, and now I'm sending you this voice message and we started talking and now he works for me.
I love that.
So that is just a nice bit.
I've had so many people like that in my life. There's this quote by the leading compassion expert in the world called Christina Neff. And she has this quote, which is, you are not special in your suffering. And the first time I heard that, my past like victim mindset, the old version of me, wanted to be like, no, I am special in my suffering. And this is unique to me. And I was very affected by this quote. And I now use it on all of my retreats. Every time I teach,
Wow.
I tell people, and it's so interesting because I always love when I'm teaching and talking. I love just like energy, right? This is why I do what I do. I think that one of my core loves in this world is affecting people's energy in a positive way. And I love watching when I say that quote, how some of the group will be like, oh, wow, that's empowering. And others will just go like, oh, but my story is so heavy. I want this story to be the reason for everything. And it's so interesting where a quote like that or something that someone can say can have such a profound impact on us that we then have to really look at like, well, what's behind that? What belief are we holding on to?
There are a gazillion other things I want to speak about as well. You were mentioning Taylor Swift, and I was in my head. There's this one phrase.
Shake it off. Shake it off.
No. There is this one line that she said. All the Swifties, they will comment it. I'm not going to do it because I'm actually trying to attract more men into my community, and it turns out when I talk about Taylor Swift, this is something that. I'm not a magnet towards men in those moments. But something I think we all want to attract is love.
Yes.
That's a feeling we all want to attract. It doesn't matter to which country you travel to. Love is always, well, not always, but if you go really deep, you can have the mention, all of it, the watch, whatever. At some point, you're like, I actually want love and connection. I actually want to be loved. So I want to know how you attract love. I want to know why people who need love the most, who need a partner the most, usually they have the least. People who really need it. It's also true for money if you think about it. I said that the other day, it pissed some people off, but I think it's true. I don't say it's the right thing, or I don't say I like it, but if you really think about it, people who need money the most have the least. People who need clients the most have the least. Why is that true, and what does that mean in terms of our romantic world? What does it mean in terms of attracting love and deep connection into our life? And love also can be between friends. It doesn't always have to be romantic. What are your thoughts on that?
Love, big topic. I think when it comes to attracting love, I think the first thing that we need to understand is we need to come back to love. I think many of us have forgotten that at the core, at the essence of us, we are love. We came into this world as pure love. And I think that it's always just a returning back to love in everything that we do. And I think that we can really focus on the fact that, like, I always like to ask myself this question, like, what would love do? What would the most loving version of me do in this situation? How could I show up with love? How can I show up with care? How can I show up with compassion? When it comes to why some people don't attract love that really want it, I hate to say it, but desperation is a stinky cologne. I think that it's an interesting thing in the sense that I think sometimes when we're so desperate for something, when we're so needing of something, when we're so obsessed with something and we're feeling like we need something to complete us and that we are in this pursuit of something, it can really send off this very, very intense energy that other people can feel. I think that people want to be wanted and chosen, but if they are needed, it can be this essence of like, oh, you really need me. And that can be like a lot, I think, for a lot of people. I think especially in this day and age when people feel like someone really needs them, it's like they want to, I think everyone wants to feel chosen. Everybody wants to feel like I choose you. This is something I say in my long-term relationship. Like I choose my partner. I've been choosing him for 14 years. I don't want him. I don't need him. I choose him. When I really need him, for me, like, and this is probably going back into my own programming, when I say desperation's a stinky clone, I'm talking about myself. In the times when I've really needed my partner in like a desperate sense, and I've had that anxious attachment, that clinging, that's, he has pulled away in those moments, right? And it's that kind of like that power dynamic. I think sometimes we need to realize that maybe what you're needing in someone else is something that you just need from yourself. And I think that that's really important to look at. Like, why is it that you feel like you need someone to complete you? What is it that you're not giving to yourself or doing within yourself that really needs to be nurtured and looked after? Because I think that two halves don't make a whole. I think we used to say that saying a lot. To me, two halves don't make a whole. I think two wholes come together and create something even more magnetic and even more beautiful. I don't think our partners complete us. I think they complement us, and I think they give us a lot of beautiful things. But I think that although partners definitely can provide a lot of things, and especially in like, masculine and feminine dynamics and relationships, like my partner is a provider at his core. He's a provider of love, of safety, of security. We do our businesses together. So financially, yes, of course. But in the sense of, I think that I had a deeper love for him and with him in our relationship when I stopped needing him. And instead I started looking after myself. And then I started wanting and like choosing him really.
This is so beautiful.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing I would say with relationships. Something I said in the book that I read, I'm like, oh, maybe this is going to trigger people, but it's like, who are you willing to be to attract the person that you desire? Because I think sometimes we're putting ourselves out there and we're thinking about like, oh, I want this standard of person, or I want this particular thing, or I have this idea of the version of the person that I want to find. But it's like, well, who are you being in order to attract that person? And what are you doing within yourself to be that high level person? I think sometimes we have to look back at ourselves. And
this is one of the best questions you can possibly ask yourself.
Because this is huge.
It's always about, who do you need to become? Because when you have a goal, right? Yeah. Like if it's not love, if you take business or whatever, it's never about the goal. Because you achieve the goal and then you're like, it's nice for like 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks. But then you're like, wasn't it about the person I became to achieve this goal?
Yeah.
Because then you can also replicate it for the rest of your life. That's why people who win the lottery, they never had to become a millionaire. So they lose it all because it's not their identity. So we can reverse engineer and ask ourselves, if we want that, who do I need to become?
This is huge. I really do believe that that's one of the key things people need to look at. It's all about getting into the identity first. It's like, if you want to be chosen, if you want to be cherished, if you want someone to have a magnetic connection to you and you want to attract someone, this is about your inner world. It's not about your outer world. It's about you shining so bright and being so powerful within that people naturally magnetize towards you and you're not chasing other people. Maybe a man can chase a little bit, but as a woman, I'm not chasing, I'm attracting. I think that that's for me with masculine and feminine dynamics.
You said this, again, goosebumps. You said this very, wow, this is amazing. I've never heard it like this. What did you say? Neediness is a...
Yeah, it's just desperation is a stinky cologne. I think if we're always in this energy of like needing, wanting, rather than choosing and being empowered, then we're going to repel people.
Yeah, and repel love, repel clients, repel money, repel success, I would say.
I think you need to be strong within yourself and in your core that like, yes, I am a high value person. Yes, I am worthy. Yes, people want to be with me. Like when you choose yourself and you like really focus on yourself and you make yourself irresistible just because you are doing the work, you are so magnetic, you're healing yourself, you're looking after yourself, that's when you're going to find the kind of person that you really actually want to attract. I feel like... And look, I'm not saying that you can't find someone. Like when I found my partner, it started as a quite unconscious relationship in the sense that I wasn't looking for someone. He chose me. He was in the pursuit of me and he found me. And I was like, what am I doing? I don't necessarily want to be in a relationship. I've just broken up with someone. But our relationship wouldn't have lasted if I hadn't have done that inner work, if I hadn't have really built myself up and I stopped having that, I guess that belief that he was completing me or that I needed him to complete me. Because I think when you're in this sense of like, I really need someone, and it's more that like, for me, a choosing of someone.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's much more empowered place for both people. And I think also a more magnetic energy.
1,000,000%. This is this beautiful loop that is being closed. We started the episode with the quote with your Oprah. Oprah.
You are responsible for the energy that you bring into this room.
Exactly. You're responsible for the energy you're bringing into this room. So if you go into a room with this needy energy, what will you attract? Not abundance, but lack. Whether that's love, whether that's, I teach that a lot in business. Like if you need clients and you have that energy, it's all about me, and you will attract nothing but lack. But if you are good within yourself, that's usually, you just said it, I didn't need someone to complete me. In that moment, then I attracted someone. When you, like right now, I don't need another client. And they're coming. When you don't need more money, but you're so full, you're so whole just by yourself, that's usually when more comes. So the question then becomes, what can you do? Who do you need to become?
Yeah. Vibration precedes manifestation. It's all about our inner world creating our outer world. So it's doing that inner work first, that inner world work first. And once you have that whole inner world, then your outer world will just be a match to that.
Yeah.
If you try and do it the other way around, it gets tricky.
Yeah, it's very hard. But I think that's what many people do. Once I see it, then I believe it. It works exactly the other way around.
Yeah, agreed.
Once I
believe it,
I will see it. Well, I could go on for another 2 hours, but you have a flight.
Yeah, I love
to
this.
catch.
Thank you so much for having me.
It felt like 5 minutes, and that's usually a good sign when I lose track of time. This book, my friends, Magnetic, is...
Thank you so much.
I had a good time reading it. That's always when I always read and make notes when something is standing out, and there's so many moments for me to reflect, to have a permission slip to understand, who do I need to be? Who do I get to be magnetic, to attract the things that I really want, to create a life that I'm proud of.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, I just can't wait to connect with you in the future. You're a legend. I love your podcast. I love everything that you're putting out there, and just really appreciate you inviting me on. But yeah, Magnetic is out. People can go get it. It's also in German.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a German, so if any Germans listening.
We have a lot of Germans listening.
Yes,
so.
well, it's translated in German, so you can also read it in German as well as English.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link it down below. And Rochelle, big thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, just as a little gift from our side, from my team, because you stayed until the end of this episode. 30 days of free Fire Within membership. I created the Fire Within membership to give you guys access to the tools that have changed my life, the lives of my clients, and give you also access to a community of like-minded people. We have guided breathwork sessions, guided meditations, guided visualization practices, really tools that enable you to create the life that you deserve and that you want. And it's one of the best things we have ever created. Hundreds of people, live events, sessions that will blow your mind. 30 days for free. You will find the link in the description. Thank you so much, and until next time.